welcome back to another video. So, about a year ago, my dad and I competed in a baking competition called the Big London Bake when we were in London last year. And while we were in London a couple of weeks ago, we decided we had to go and do it again. If you haven't seen the video of us at the Big London Bake last year, this is what the thumbnail looks like, and I'll leave the link to the video in the description down below. Go and check that out because I'm going to be talking about that video and there will be spoilers. The Big London Bake is essentially like the Great British Bake Off, which is why I titled that video I Went on the Great British Bake Off, and why I titled this video I Went on the Great British Bake Off again, because it's essentially a competition like the Great British Bake Off. So you are given a theme, ingredients and all your flavors and decorations and everything, and a certain amount of time to bake and decorate a cake. And the theme this year was art cake. This is the inspo picture they had on their Instagram, but you know me, trying to be the most creative person alive, I didn't want to do what their inspo picture was. So on the flight to London, I came up with two sketches. This is two sketches. The first sketch was a Bob Ross inspired cake, which I really loved, but when talking to my family in London, they don't really know about Bob Ross. Bob Ross was an American painter. He had a show based in America, so he isn't as popular in London. So I scrapped that idea. But sketch number two was the idea of a paint tube with rainbow paint coming out of the paint tube. And that's what my dad and I ended up deciding what we were gonna do. I showed him both sketches and that's what he wanted to do. But while we were in London, and while I was struggling to fall asleep, my creative wheels were turning, and I decided to then kind of scrap that idea, but instead think of one of my favorite artists, which, if you are seeing my beautiful sweatshirt, is Keith Haring. If you don't know who Keith Haring is, he was an amazing artist from Pennsylvania, and he did this kind of design where there were random people. And I looked on Pinterest for a Keith Haring cake, and this is what I found, and from that moment I was sold. I wanted something ambitious and challenging, so that's what I had in mind. But then I thought, oh no, let's not scrap the paint tube cake altogether. What if we do the Keith Haring cake with a paint tube on top with rainbow sprinkles coming out of it? So that's what I decided to end up going for. But also, since Keith Haring is from Pennsylvania, I wanted to do a cake themed after a Pennsylvanian dessert, and one of the Pennsylvanian desserts is a sticky bun. So I decided to flavor the cake after a sticky bun. So that means there was cinnamon in it, rum raisin, and then in between the layers we did walnuts and cookie crumbs, but you'll see all that. So let's get to the Big London Bake.
Where's the door gone? Started making it, had a breakdown. Bon appetit. Oh dear.
So with those iconic moments being seen, now it's time to walk through the fridge. Yes, you heard me, walk through a fridge. Hi, Dad.
After you.
To get to the Big London Bake, this place is amazing. They have everything already pre-set out for you, all your cake ingredients, your recipe, and your icing ingredients. And they even have drawers full of utensils for you to use. So with all that said,
On your marks.
Get set.
Bake!
Dad, you need to make the cake!
So while my dad went off to raid their toppings bar for a snack, I started making the cake. I just followed their simple recipe, creaming together the butter and sugar, and just doing this until my dad came back to do his job.
Naughty boy!
While my dad was back at his job, I went over to look at their flavorings. I was very happy to see they had walnuts and biscuit crumbs, because those were going to go into the middle of the cake later, as well as sprinkles and sweeties, which my dad took, and a bunch of essential oils, but for food. and here's all their fondant. I grabbed black and white. To get started on the Keith Haring painting, I wanted this to look like it was on a canvas, so I started out by rolling out some white, but don't worry, I made sure to take enough breaks to micromanage my dad.
Don't forget to keep an eye on the butter. Don't forget to keep an eye on the butter.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, so should I turn it off?
No, wait till it gets to 3 minutes. Now it's gone to 3 minutes, now you can turn it off.
Then I began work rolling out very thin pieces to be the black accents for the Keith Haring drawing, because he does quite medium size black lines, but quite small when you need to work with fondant. Here is the reference image, just by the way, so you can remember that. Then the cakes were done after we flavored them with rum, raisin and cinnamon, so my dad started doling them out, and eventually I came to help as well because we are a team, I guess. While the cakes were in the oven, my dad started work on the buttercream. He is cubing up the butter into small chunks just so it'd be easier to cream. I did tell him he didn't need to cut them pebble sized. But we are making an American buttercream, where actually in the past they have told us to make a Swiss buttercream, so it was fun to see the difference. God, I'm such a nerd. And there was only so long I could put it off. I had to start working on the actual drawings. I had to start making the people. Yes, the camera did fall then, but you didn't see a thing. So I spent a long time rolling out thin pieces of black, because I wanted them to be about the same size, but I wasn't going to be super nitpicky and make sure that all the lines were the same thickness. But here I am just trying to make people. This is difficult. I think it would be probably easier if I just did this with a pen and paper, or if they gave me an edible marker. This would have been so quick, so easy. It would have been done in 2 seconds flat. But no, I am here rolling out individual pieces of fondant to be arms, legs, a head. And I still wanted them to be recognizable as people, because I didn't want them to just be kind of like pieces of flubber. And I think my dad was just sitting and watching me decorate for a while, so I think I made him go be useful and asked him to go get me some different colored fondant. And yeah, so I just worked on this for a while. Once I was satisfied with the drawing, I started work on the paint tube, which doesn't look great now, but once it gets a cap and a label, ooh, it'll look just like a paint tube made out of fondant. After a toothpick test, which, yes, we did have a toothpick. I was wondering if we just used a knife, but no, we did use a toothpick. It was time to take the cakes out of the oven. Did anyone else just see my dad do a cute little boogie in the background? But back to these beautiful cakes. They popped out of the tins just perfectly, but we needed to get them to cool because you can see the steam coming off them. Once the cakes were all cooling, my dad and I started work on the paint palette that we were going to put on top of the cake. So I made the rough shape of the paint palette, and here's my dad and I making some very artistic paint blobs to go on top of the cake. Then we started stacking up the cake. Here is the walnuts and the cookie crumbs that we put in between the layers of the cake just to give that sticky bun vibe. Then I think my dad's on the phone with my mom while I stacked up the cakes. There were actually 4 layers in total. So quite a tall cake, but I love a tall cake. But once I was done with all my fillings in between the layers, I worked on icing the sides of the cake. And since we were just doing white, I wanted to make this smooth and as crisp as possible before going on and putting on the final details, which included our Keith Haring canvas, the paint tubes, the paint palette. I even made a paintbrush, and then instead of doing rainbow paint from the paint tube, we ended up doing sprinkles, a bunch of rainbow sprinkles just to tie in the cake theme. And here is the final product, or final cake. I love how it turned out so much. I thought it was so cute. But now it is time to take our cake to the judging table. Take the cake away, Dad. Here is a quick overview of all the cakes, but now it's time to get into the judging.
Not least our friends over here. Hello guys, tell me about your cake please, what do we have?
So one of my favorite artists is Keith Haring, so I tried to do a recreation of like a Keith Haring painting on the front, and then I did a palette on the top with sprinkles coming out of the paint tube. And then since Keith is from Pennsylvania, and one of the like traditional desserts of Pennsylvania is a sticky bun, so I flavored it with cinnamon and rum raisin and then walnuts and biscuit crumbs in the middle.
Wow, very nice. And I hope the whole fish in there.
Thank you.
Do you want to cut into it?
Yes. No, you cut it.
Very nice and neat. Fantastic sponge work.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. Which fan is
Thank you.
Go. Ready, and we got the walnuts and the biscuit layers. Well done, guys. Gorgeous work. Very, very well done. Right. Thanks again. Gonna get a drum roll, please. Let's say something true. This one here. Second place, gonna get a big drum roll for second place. It's going to this one. Well done, guys. And the winner of today's competition, big drum roll please for our winner. Sorry.
Are you happy with yourself?
With our prize-winning cake in hand, it was time to go back home and give it a taste. So, in the rain, we took a train, and then another train, and then I can't remember if we took a third train, but I feel like we might have. But then we had a quick walk in the rain. Yes, this was all in the rain. Thank goodness I brought my raincoat, but it was time to go and taste the victory cake.
So my mom's already had a slice, but now my dad's gonna try it officially because he was snacking on it earlier.
Yum!
It's good. Does it taste like first place?
It does.
Okay, that's
Tastes
good.
like tastes like victory. Success.
Good.
My dad and I ended up, again, we ended up winning last time with our Be Winnie the Pooh cake, this cake, and then now we've won with our Keith Haring cake. So vote in the comments which one you like better. I think I actually like the bee cake more. I actually found that the Keith Haring cake was too busy. I thought there was too much going on. I actually, controversial opinion, I didn't love it that much. But my mom loved it, my dad loved it, all my family members loved it, and every person who I've shown the cake to has loved it. But I love the Big London Bake. They have quite a couple locations, and if you're in London, I highly recommend doing it. If you love to bake, if you love baking competition shows, it really does have that vibe, and it's just so fun and creative that I highly, highly, highly recommend it. But if you liked this video and you liked seeing my dad and I bake this cake, then you could like this video if you wanted to. You could also subscribe if you wanted to. Let me know what you thought of the cake in the comments down below. Also, which cake did you like more, last year's cake or this year's cake? And I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.